Hi, this is Curt, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Let's go to Indiana. I love this because I see it happening and I want to talk about it. And a while ago, Curt, you, me, and I think Chip and on our fire engineering side actually talked about this exact issue. So I feel like people aren't listening. So here's what we got.
It's not an isolated case. I think that's another important point about this. That I've got a couple of dozen cases similar, not quite as bad as this, but similar. Yeah.
And look, I've almost been in the situation minus all the criminal stuff, but and I think a lot of people have. So here's what happens, right? Not complicated facts, but super interesting. We have an Indiana firefighter. He claims, and I think he's right, that he stopped to assist a motorist whose vehicle was damaged. And he flips his lights on, right? If we stopped right there, I really don't have a problem with it, because what happened is, there is surveillance video. And by the way, guys, this is why you should have dash cams in all your vehicles, including your chief's vehicles. But he flips his lights on, pulls the person over because he said the vehicle was smoking. And it turns out, we believe, based on some news footage and police footage, perhaps, that the vehicle was actually smoking. So at this point, I personally, you may take a different view, but I don't have an issue. Look, he pulled him over because how else do we get his attention? Your car's smoking.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that he pulled him over. I think that the vehicle may have been stopped initially. Now there was
and he pulls behind him.
Yeah, but there's some factual questions about whether or not there was just one incident or two incidents, where he initially pulled up behind him and then the driver moved and he went after him with the lights.
Well, there's the problem, right?
Well, there's the factual question. There's some unknowns here.
So what gets worse for our viewers, is he must have radioed. We're making some assumptions, right? This is very early in the investigation, as far as I know. But he must have radioed that he was behind this vehicle or pulled over to help. But in any event, he gets notified that this individual who's driving the car, allegedly, is wanted and could be armed.
Right.
At that point, I don't know what the guy's doing, right? At this point, I'm not trying to be critical, but he's charged. If what he's charged with is true, the guy's nuts at this point. So what happens allegedly is that he then goes up to the person and pulls his gun, right? The firefighter pulls his gun. Allegedly, he's accused of identifying himself as a police officer and allegedly threatens to shoot the guy.
And again, this is where the facts kind of come in, because according to him now, the man, he's already behind the man with his lights on, and now he knows that believes that he's wanted and may be armed, and now the man gets out of his vehicle and starts coming towards his vehicle.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But see, but that's where the facts now. So let's say he's right, he's justified up to the point where he stopped to assist, he puts his lights on for everyone's safety.
We're all good with that.
Now he's observing the man get out of his vehicle, who may be armed and is wanted, walking towards his vehicle. He apparently is armed, and he's got his wife and son, or wife and I don't know if it was a son or daughter, but an adult son, adult child in the vehicle with him. Okay, so now he's got his family in the car, and the guy's walking towards him. At that point, he takes out the gun.
Right. Now, my advice personally would be back the car up and leave. Right. If I'm going to protect my family, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to evacuate the scene. And I say that because that's important, because a lot of states, I don't know Indiana, but a lot of states are, if you have the ability to retreat, you cannot pull your firearm. Right. And I hope that everybody, if you carry in your own state, your requirement to retreat. And that's either requirement to retreat if you're in public. In some states like New York, the most liberal and worst of all states, you don't allegedly have to retreat if you're in your house, although you're definitely going to jail.
But even before we get to retreat, you cannot escalate a non-deadly situation by making it deadly. So if you're confronted with deadly force, you can respond with deadly force, and that includes the threat of deadly force. Anytime you take out your gun, that is potentially a deadly force situation.
But all he knows is that could be armed and could be dangerous.
Right. So that's may not be. And here we get into some factual questions I think is really interesting. And there's another twist on this, which I mean, I conceal carry. I know you do. And, you know, we're big on Second Amendment. We both are advocates for Second Amendment. Okay. But our training is primarily as private citizens. Okay. When you start acting in a way that you are a government agent, and you're authorized by government to have lights on, now you're a government agent. The laws that relate to the use of the weapon now go beyond what they are for a private citizen carrying a weapon. And now you've got to look at the training that police officers have. And there's a bunch of different standards now, Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment, that have to be considered. So.
And look, and not to get farther along, you, me, Chip, we all talk about the concealed carry issue, but you know, we only have our voice and deadly force. We have nothing in between when you're just a carry person, right? So police obviously have voice, authority. They have backup if they need it. They can bring manpower, right, to show a threat.
Non-deadly options, non-deadly.
Yeah, non-deadly tasers and batons and mace and
de-escalation training.
Yeah. Oh, and training. Yeah, that one. But here's my advice. I totally get how we pull up, we have lights, we're protecting the person. I've done that on so many occasions as fire chief. I'm sure we all have. And you notify someone, hey, I have somebody, you know, I'm behind smoking, call the police or call the fire department, or I'm investigating, whatever, right? We've done that. I haven't actually given them a license plate, frankly. I don't know where that comes in, so that they could have alerted them. But I think because he gave the plate, it starts sounding like he's sounding like a police officer. Now, I don't know whether he's charged with pulling his gun. He's charged with impersonating a police officer. We have seen a lot of impersonation cases where just the use of the lights is what causes the impersonation. Usually, however, in private unmarked vehicles, not in vehicles that say fire department all over them. It's hard to impersonate someone, right? But you do this in your own private vehicle, and you may very well get charged with impersonating a police officer. In my private vehicle, when I had the lights and sirens in it, they all thought I was DEA. They never, right? They like, why is someone driving an Audi with lights and sirens in it? But this is a dangerous move, right? And things we do are dangerous unintentionally. So we don't know. Who's telling the truth? Well, and apparently there's video.
Yeah, there is. And there's another aspect to this. And I didn't really get into all the details because there's a couple of different newspaper accounts out there, and they're not all consistent. But there was an indication in one of them that he told the police that he was a special deputy in Madison County. Now, I don't know if someone who maybe is what we call here an assistant deputy fire marshal could be considered a special deputy, or whether or not he was in fact a special deputy, not in the town where he was, but in a different county. And I think there's some factual questions there. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I hope it works out for the man. I hate to see a brother firefighter get themselves in trouble. On the other hand, I think there's some lessons here that we can all kind of take away from this, that we've got to be very careful in the event that we use our lights not responding to an emergency scene. There's some inadvertent things that can happen. I can see this totally happening totally inadvertently, and then escalating, to a bad point. Now, if he pursued the man and use the lights to apprehend him, that changes some things as well. But assuming that we've just got a vehicle accident or a vehicle that is damaged and possibly smoking, and we pull in behind it and use the lights to protect ourselves and them, and then this whole thing unfolds, I think that's, you would hope the prosecutors would take a sharp look at this as well. But again, we don't know all the facts.
And look, as a trial lawyer, I'm saying I've got a wanted person on, right, who's presumably got a warrant out for his arrest, and I've got a firefighter. I'm going to believe, right, the firefighter, not the wanted person. So burden of proof, I don't do criminal work. You don't want to hire me to do criminal work. But if I was the criminal attorney, I'd be like, come on, it's jury question. Who are you going to believe? But I go back to where I started. if you have lights and sirens in any vehicle marked or unmarked, you need to have a dash cam, because this is the stuff that's going to happen that you're going to get accused of.
Gonna help you or hang you.
Yeah. All right.
One thing I just want to point out here is let me give you another hypo. Okay, we have an off-duty police officer that comes upon a building that's on fire, and he maybe rescues some people or whatever it may be, but goes around and breaks a bunch of windows. You know, I'm sure that never happens. Okay, but in terms of our response to someone who does that, even though we don't like the fact that you broke the windows, we probably say thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great fire now.
You know, right. But nonetheless, you know, it's not as welcome, you know, when we get involved in what law enforcement should be doing. So.
Right. And look, please, you use the word pursue. Please don't pursue anybody. I remember listening, I was driving my chief's car and I hear another fire chief call in and say, I'm in pursuit of, and 911 got to be like, please break that off. Like, we don't pursue, right? That is not a fire. If anything happens, and we're going to get to negligent driving or a criminal driving issue soon, backing up in this case, but don't pursue anybody. If you think you are not a cop, if the cops want to pretend they're firefighters, fine, right? I can't stop that, but do not pretend you're a cop. Come on, you got the desire going the wrong way. Cops want to be firefighters, not the reverse. So don't act like it.